Will Canada crack down on Toronto real estate investors this year in 2022? Stay tuned to find out exactly what I'm contemplating. Promise you, it'll be worth it. Good day, Toronto. Welcome to another episode of Prime Property. So glad you joined me here today. There's been a lot of talks about how these new potential policies that are coming from obviously the office, financial, super, anyways, those guys are going to change the requirements to buy an investment property for investors, right? And there's a lot of rumors of potential changes that are coming. And I'm going to give you kind of my thoughts exactly on what those are and how they may affect you. The first one that everyone keeps talking about is the potential rule change that's coming to increase your down payment from 20% to maybe something higher. So this could be 25%, 30%, 35%, who knows, right? But I think the implications of this kind of affecting the market is next to zero. Because here's my rationale. I would argue that 90% of the investors in the GTA market right now are using existing equity from their homes, whether principal or maybe other investment properties to kind of fund the down payment for their next property, right? So if you own your home and it's worth 1.5, you have a mortgage of $800,000, that means you have that spread of $700,000 of equity you could use. So whether it is 25% or 35%, it's not really going to matter too much. And especially given that the market has gone up, 40% in the last 2 years. So if you're taking equity out of any home or investment property, it's gone up 40% in the last 2 years if you've had it for that long, which is absolutely crazy, right? Now, the amount of equity in most homeowners is incredibly high for that reason. So I can tell you it's not going to have much of an effect. Another thing I can tell you from anecdotal evidence is that our team and I myself have kind of had a lot of calls and inquiries about buying investment properties from people who bought a home in 2020 or 2021 because they see that prices have gone up by so much, right? So what this increased down payment change could potentially do is just change the buyer sentiment and remove, right, some people out of the market, right? But in regards to kind of is it going to change the market drastically? Probably not. And most people will generally just need time to make an adjustment on the market because I don't know if you've been around long enough, right? We used to be able to buy investment properties for 5% down, right? So I suspect this change will maybe take 10, 20% of investors out of the market. And that range really depends on what the percentage of the down payment is going to be if and when this change happens, right? Now, a minor effect that it will have on certain investors are those who plan to buy more than one investment property with the equity that they have gained in the last few years, right? So certain investors buy multiple properties at once or, the same amount of properties equal to the number of kids that they kind of have, right? This is generally what a lot of the first-time mom and pop investors kind of talk to me about. So those will surely be affected if they haven't had their home for 5 to 10 years plus and haven't gained that much equity. Otherwise, I think this is just kind of another laundry list of OSFI changes on the demand side that we'll see and we continue to see. Now, in the last 5 years, we've had about 17 changes, and that's quite a lot. And some of them minor, some of them bigger, kind of the major ones like the stress test. And I'll put a little screenshot of all the ones they've had here if you want to read about it. But nonetheless, these are all just demand side changes that has its effect ultimately wear off at some way, shape, or form. Because if you remember, the stress test was a big deal in 2018. The question I'm pondering right now is how much down payment they're going to increase it because real estate is so tied to the Canadian GDP and the amount of tax revenue, income for the government right now that I bet the government will be a little bit concerned with even a minor slowdown with the market as they kind of pass this policy change as well, right? So something to be considered. We'll see. The question I'm really pondering about right now is how much down payment they're going to increase the investment property to, right? It's because so much of real estate is tied to the Canadian GDP and the tax revenue and income that the government collects right now that I bet the government will be a little bit worried about a slowdown due to this policy change. We'll see. We'll see if this even happens, right? Now, this is the type of real estate content you enjoy. Make sure you help us smash the like button and subscribe to the Prime Props channel because every single week we make awesome content like this and kind of give you the heads up so that you can have the information asymmetry to kick ass in the real estate investing world. And if you want to work with us because you think we know what the heck we're doing, right? Whether it's buying your home, your investment property, or selling your home, you can book a call with me using the link right here. It's www.chatwithzen.com. The second change that could potentially be coming down the pipeline is to restrict the use of borrowed funds for down payment. This one, if implemented, is going to have a big impact on the real estate market, like ginormous. Frankly, if they really wanted to reduce the demand side for investors, like specifically, this is the way, right? As the Mandalorian is, this is the way, right? It'll also probably crush the real estate market for a while, from my opinion. Let me explain. Like with the first point I was saying, right? Most investors, like 90%, give or take, I would say, at least from what I can tell, who are buying investment properties are using borrowed funds from their existing properties right now. So what happens is the minute you remove the use of those borrowed funds, meaning you say you can't use those to buy investment properties anymore, and then that will remove 90% of the investors from the market, as they can't borrow from their homes to buy that next investment property. See what I mean, right? That's a big time impact. Now, without using borrowed funds, most people would need to buy a property with after-tax income. That's a lot of money. So let's just use a one-bedroom condo as an example. It's about $650,000 to $700,000 right now, depending on where you're looking. That means you need $130,000 down and about $20,000 in land transfer tax. Let's just call it $150,000. Chart for you to follow if you want. That's hard to save for, or that's about a $300,000 gross income that you need to make before taxes without accounting for other living expenses. That's a lot of money. That's why it's hard to invest if you remove borrowed funds. Then if you mix that with the higher down payment from point number one, we're easily approaching $200,000, right? Just wild, just absolutely wild. So here's a chart, like I was saying, about what it's going to take for the down payment if we scale it from 25, 30 to 35. As you can see, this would absolutely crush the market. It'll also absolutely crush the pre-con side as well, because people have a hard time closing without borrowed funds. This is why this rule is so critical if it does come, which at the end of the day, if this rule comes, will have a cascading effect on less inventory, as like pre-con side, builders can't sell out the project to get construction financing to actually build it, et cetera, right? So we have losing supply. So this one's going to be like a slippery slope if they do kind of pass it on. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't make a real estate decision based on any of these changes I just told you about. Now, whether you want to wait or buy now in case you can't later, you're essentially trying to time the market. And I've said this countless times. It's not about timing the market, it's about the time you spend in the market. So you're on the fence about what to do because you have no idea what the heck's going on with all these crazy rule change. You can book a call with me using the link right here on the screen. It's www.chavzan.com. Until next time, your move, your future. See ya. Now that you're done watching this one, how about this one? Oh, you know what? This one's good too. Ooh, this one's really good. You know what? Just watch them both.